What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year to you as well. I'm Nomadic Timbo, and today I'm going to talk to you about what it's like traveling in your 30s, or at least in my opinion, anyway. So, first of all, I'll say that I believe that traveling in your 30s might even be better than traveling in your 20s. And why do I say that? Well, even though traveling in your 20s is awesome, particularly when it comes to personal growth and maturity, um, you can still grow a lot as a person when you're traveling in your 30s as well. But you got that combined with the maturity aspect, or at least I like to think of it that way anyway. um, but yeah, so what is the main difference between traveling in your 20s and in your 30s? I mean, obviously, different people are different individuals, so it means that they have different experiences compared to me or anybody else for that matter. But what I found out is that, like, when I was in my 20s, there were two things that were going on. I was partying way more, and I just wanted to see so many different countries, one after the other. I'm not saying that I went from place to place to place in quick succession, but I just wanted to do like a bit of an Indiana Jones or a James Bond thing where I was just globetrotting to many different countries in one year. I'm not saying that I forced myself to do it, but I mean, I did want to see these places organically, but it was almost like I was feeling I had to do it just to get like a certain accomplishment done that I wanted. But the nice thing about traveling in your 30s, at least in my experience anyway, I'm not, but by the way, let me say that this doesn't happen as soon as you hit your 30 and then everything changes. Obviously not, because it depends what you've been going through and what lifestyle you've had. But um, since being in my early 30s, I would say it's almost like the motivations have changed a little bit. It's like I'm more happy to go back to countries that I love being in now instead of like refusing to repeat myself and just go to new countries for the sake of going to new countries. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is that, I mean, I've mentioned before that, like, the best part of traveling, arguably, is the people that you meet from around the world and the connections that you form with them. And yeah, I think that's got something to do with it, to be honest, because even though it's much, much easier with social media to stay in contact with people who you've met when you've been traveling, the sad reality is that there's only quite a small percentage that you'll end up seeing again, no matter how well you get on with them. And for me personally, I was getting a little bit sick and tired of that because, yeah, when you form really good bonds and connections with people, and then you find out that most of them you're never going to see again, it's kind of hard. It's not easy, and it never gets any easier, no matter how many times you come across that situation. So yeah, it's just like a nice. It's just nice to know that you're going to spend a lot more time in a certain part of the world where you can maybe get into some form of a community, which is quite nice. I mean, obviously there's advantages and disadvantages to both sides of traveling. Obviously, whether you're properly globetrotting and like by visiting a lot of countries in a short space of time, or whether you're actually happy to stay in a certain spot for a long period of time. There's obviously ups and downs for both, but I think when you're in your 30s, it's almost like you're more content with, well, I don't like to use the term slowing down, but it kind of is a little bit where if you have like an activity that you love doing, on top of the people that you become really close to and you bond with. Like me, for example, I've really developed a love for surfing, which is why I keep going back to places like Sri Lanka, Morocco, and Portugal. Then I think it makes it easier then to be happy with sticking around in the same place. So that's kind of nice, really. Um, for those of you who may think about traveling in your 30s, but have never done this kind of thing before, where you do it like in a solo way or a backpacking kind of way, there might be some of you who, I have come across some people, believe it or not, who think, oh, I don't know if I've reached that point where I'm too old to start doing it. And I say, no, definitely not. I mean, if you don't have any responsibilities holding you back, then definitely go for it. Nothing stopping you whatsoever. And I'll go to a little story, a cool little story, where I met this dude from Colorado who was 34 at the time. And I met him in Nicaragua. And him and his girlfriend were running a really, really nice hostel that I stayed in at the time. And this guy was working an office job for many years, and he was earning really, really good money too. But it got to the point where he just had enough of it and his heart wasn't with it anymore. And he just thought, you know what, screw it. I just want to do something I really want to do. So in the end, he just quit his job and then decided to run a hostel in Nicaragua where he was earning way less money as a result. But he was so much happier because it's something that he'd always wanted to do. So yeah, I mean that's I mean just listening to that example alone is a good enough reason to start, you know, solo traveling when you're in your 30s, when you're thinking about doing it, when you don't have responsibilities tying you down. The other thing that I'll say too is that I think the difference between traveling in your 30s compared to your 20s is that you get very different satisfactions, I think. Like when I was in my 20s, I was like, yep, cross that country off the list, cross that country off the list, awesome. But, and again, I'll go to another story where I met a guy from Switzerland in Portugal a couple of years ago where he was saying, yeah, when I do globetrotting now, I don't really get the same satisfaction out of it. And and I said to him, yeah, I kind of know what you mean a little bit. And so yeah, like both me and him felt like it was nice just to go back to somewhere where we like to go back to, you know, and not feel the need to see new places for the sake of seeing new places. So yeah, that's another benefit as well, is because I think you put less stress on yourself to tick certain boxes throughout your life, and you're just happy with, you know, where you're going or where you stay in for like on the long term, so to speak. So that's nice as well. And I think like well, another example since I've been in my 30s as well is that I've but particularly being in a community like I was in Sri Lanka, I met a lot of people who were like business owners or entrepreneurs or photographers. I'll get to that now. Yeah, like when I was meeting these people and hanging around with them long term, it was totally different for me because I'm used to hanging around with people who are backpackers who just travel all the time. And I think it just gave me a new motivation and a new purpose because I've really developed like a big taste in like landscape photography in particular. I mean, most of the photographers I met in Sri Lanka were not landscape photographers. They did other kinds of forms of that. But having said that, though, I thought, well, these people are continuing to live an amazing life where they're doing something that they genuinely love doing. And I thought, you know what? Why can't I try to do something like that? And so yeah, and since then I've just developed like a proper taste in photography now, which is why I've kind of been a little bit late to making another video again after the last one. So sorry about that. But yeah, so like if you stay in the same spot for a long period of time, I mean, when you're traveling, I mean, now obviously not when you're home or something, then it can lead you to really, really cool ideas on certain careers that you might want to pursue. So that's another great aspect of it too. And I have to say, it was getting to a stage where I was thinking, okay, I'm still loving traveling, but I don't know, maybe there's something missing. And I did not realize at the time that that's actually what it was. But since I've been having that new hobby and pursuit of a new career, it's actually really, really given me another purpose now, which has helped significantly. So that's another benefit of traveling, you know, when you pass 30 years old as well. And by the way, guys, let me just say as well that I'm not only talking about 30 somethings, I'm talking about 40 somethings as well, because it's becoming more common for people who are 40 plus to do this kind of thing now, which is great because you get such a wide variety of age categories, and it just kind of like confirms that you're doing the right thing, particularly if it feels right in your heart. In fact, actually, I'm going to go to a quote from a really, really good TV show that I watched recently called Castlevania, where there was a minor character, only a minor character, I might add, who was talking to a key character. Basically, this key character in the show, he was kind of lost a little bit because his master had died. I'm not going to say who it is and stuff because I don't want to spoil anything or mention any names. But yeah, he was kind of struggling to find out what kind of purpose he was on, really. And then this minor character said to him, which I'll never said to him a quote that I'll never forget. Forgive my attempt at the accent, but if you guys watch the show, please let me know in the comments what you think of it. If you don't have your own story to tell, then you become part of someone else's. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that is like really really deep stuff, dude. And I thought, but he's absolutely right. You should definitely continue to be the star of your own movie, no matter what situation it is that you're in. And as I said earlier, if you feel like doing something like this, but are kind of like a little bit skeptical because if you don't have responsibilities, go ahead and do it because I can almost guarantee you that you will not regret it. Seriously, it's a wonderful way of living, no matter what age it is that you're at. And I mean, I could mention a few other examples of people who, had like a really really high paid job, but ended up just saying screw it, and then they ended up traveling solo, like you would if you were in your 20s or something on the backpacking scene. So yeah, there you go, guys. I think I'll leave it there. Those are my thoughts on what it's like traveling when you're 30 plus. I mean, let me know in the comments what you think. I mean, it's obviously going to be different for different people, but yeah, I think I'll just conclude by saying what I think it is that it's a nice balance between maintaining your youthful spirit because you still do a bit of partying. Don't worry about that. But you also have the maturity aspect, and you have a little bit more responsibility, I think. So the combination of that, just makes it even better than compared to traveling in your 20s, I think. So before I finish, guys, I just want to let you know that this is going to be the last of my monologue style videos because in going into 2022, I want to change my approach a little bit where I make more of a mini documentary kind of style to my videos because I'm going to be talking about more countries now instead of like the mental side of traveling. So that should be a lot of fun, and yeah, it's going to test the filmmaking skills a little bit, but hopefully I'll be up to the task. But yeah, again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and for what you've done so far. And those of you who are watching a lot of my videos but haven't subscribed yet, if you could subscribe, that'd be amazing if you can. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys more in the new year, and I'll see you soon.